Joining us now is Gunnar Raymer from the Republican Accountability Political Action Committee. Gunnar, what do you make of Nikki Haley's bid to run for U.S. president in 2024? Where does she stand with the Republicans, and do you think she has a shot?
Yeah, I think the main thing about Nikki Haley's candidacy is, first, she has a very impressive personal background. She has foreign policy experience. I'd say that, if this were a Republican primary, presidential primary 12 years ago, 16 years ago, she'd be a leading contender. But right now, I think the problem with Nikki Haley is that she has no clear constituency. And what the Republican primary base wants is, I think, a little bit different than what Nikki Haley offers.
Now, we know she's running against former President Donald Trump. How do you think her platform will differ from his? Anything that sticks out as particularly problematic for you?
Yeah, well, she's going to lean into both her experience as a former governor of South Carolina and as well as being the ambassador to the UN under the Trump administration. I think the problem is, and we do focus groups all the time, we recently did a poll too, is that her name doesn't come up organically like someone, obviously Donald Trump is universally known, but Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' name pops up frequently. And I think that Nikki Haley, her name just doesn't come up organically in the same way, right? We have to ask, what are your thoughts about Mike Pence or Mike Pompeo or Nikki Haley? And you do have people go, oh, yeah, I like Nikki Haley. I think she's good. But I think the thing that we're seeing in our focus groups and as well as our poll is that she had about high 40s favorability rating. Less than 10% of people had an unfavorable view of Nikki Haley. About 20% didn't know. The other 20 had no opinion about her. So there's some room for Nikki Haley to grow. But the thing is, you had Nikki Haley having favorables in the high 40s, yet on a 10-way ballot test, she only pulled in 4%. So, it's one thing to like a candidate, but it's another to feel so intense about a candidate that you want to vote for them. I think that that's the problem that Nikki Haley has right now. I think that her time as governor of South Carolina, what she did in terms of her response to taking down the Confederate flag, these are the sorts of things that are going to be raised as she's a candidate. And the one thing that we're waiting to see is, does Donald Trump choose to go after Nikki Haley, or does Donald Trump not and actually enjoys her candidacy as she could potentially take away votes from Ron DeSantis. And we saw what happened in 2016 when you have a bunch of Republican candidates running. Donald Trump has a grip right now. I think that he's the weakest he's been in the Republican Party, but he still has, about 30% of Republicans who would follow him. Even in our poll, we saw that 28% of Republicans would vote for him as an independent candidate compared to if Joe Biden and Ron DeSantis were both the Democratic and Republican nominees.
Do you think Haley will be the person to unite the Republican Party and voters?
We'll see. I think a lot depends on what happens with Ron DeSantis. If he chooses to run, he is the clear right now alternative to Donald Trump, because he is able to sort of toe the line between, being his own sort of Republican firebrand and also being MAGA enough and stoking those culture wars. So I think that we need to see what happens with Ron DeSantis. And the thing about DeSantis, however, is he is untested on a national stage. What do the dynamics look like if Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump are on the same debate stage? We saw what happened in 2016 when Donald Trump went after each candidate one by one and took them down. Oftentimes it happened on the debate stage.
Thanks so much for joining us, Gunnar.
Thanks for having me.